Going to read the land recognition. London and Middlesex Community Housing provides housing on the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, Lunay, Pewak, and Attawandaron peoples. We acknowledge the local First Nations communities in this area, the Terry of the Chippewa of the Thames, the Oneida of the Thames, and the Munsee Delaware Nation. We honor and respect the history, languages, and culture of the diverse Indigenous people who call this territory home. Today, the City of London and Middlesex County is home to many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people. We are grateful to have the opportunity to work and live in this territory. Completion and acceptance of the agenda. You all have had a chance to review it, so I just need a mover and seconder. Moved by Hadley, seconded by Kara. All in favor for acceptance of the agenda? That is completed. I have not received any disclosures of interest, but I'll ask for them now. They're being done. We will proceed to the approval of the previous minutes of February 15, 2024. Again, I am going to assume that everyone's had a chance to review them, and I'll look for a mover and seconder. Moved by Kara, seconded by Mayor Grantham. All those in favor? And that too is passed. I'm not aware of any communications. Paul, do you have any communications? He does not. There are no delegations and no presentations. I should have indicated the one change to the agenda will be that the staff report on vacancy management will be moved down to the People Services and Housing Committee, because that is actually where it is appropriately dealt with. So we will move that down there. So under consent, we have the first and only consent matter is the CEO report. We've had a copy of the report, so what I'll do is I'll ask someone to move and second it, and then we will ask if Paul wants to expand and then ask for questions. Moved by Mayor Grantham, seconded by Kara. All right, Paul, anything you want to expand on in the report before we go to questions?
Yes, just three quick highlights. Just related to vacancy management, just flagging that we're continuing to be at or below the target of 3%. We're continuing to monitor the number of units moving to make ready on a monthly basis. They're below our target of 36 units a month, but they're at or above the pace of move out. So we're able to maintain the vacancy rate. So we just need to make sure that we address any increases in unit move outs to be able to maintain that rate. So just the board should be aware of that. So for the last 4 months, we're improving, but we got to make sure that we monitor that as we go forward. And just one of the things to point out, just Reimagine Southdale, just like to make sure we thank staff for their coordination and their efforts through the communications team, the tenant engagement team, and property services and tenant services. Everybody came together. I think it was a great event for the community. Tenants really appreciated it, and just to highlight some of the great work we're doing as an organization. And it's a long road to get here, but a lot of great work went into it. So just highlighting that staff recognition piece. And then just pointing out, just as an organization, we have a deep history, and we have 2 staff members who are retiring in the coming weeks. One, Denise McRae, spent over 35 years with London Middlesex Community Housing, and Nancy Strickard has spent 43 years with London Middlesex Community Housing. So they're both long-serving employees, and I think just it's important to recognize all their important work they've done over the years. They've really supported the success of many tenancies and really been contributing well to the community. And just on a note on top of that, LMCH will be doing an employee recognition event for staff in early April to celebrate everybody's years of service. I think it's sort of, as we come back, we just reflecting that, staff work and contribute to a lot of great things in our community. So just recognizing those folks who spend 15, 20, 25 years doing the work they do. So I think it's just important that we don't forget to sort of celebrate the good work of staff. And with that, I will turn it back to the board.
Thank you. Any questions, Mayor Grantham?
Congratulations there on the Reimagine Southdale. That was a great event. I passed along in county council, and the county side were a little jealous and need to pick up our socks, but through you to Paul and all the staff. Chair, just congratulations. It was a great event, and next time I'll try to speak before the mayor of London, because he stole every one of my lines. So just congratulations. And Paul, if you could let me know when the event is in April. I'm not sure if it's appropriate for a board member to attend, but I would like to do so at the staff recognition.
Okay, we will share that information.
Thank you.
Any other questions? There being none, we've moved and seconded receipt of the report, so we just have to move or vote on approval. So all in favor? So that report is received. We'll go next to the new People Service and Housing Committee report. And I just want to, before I turn to John, I just want to congratulate John on being elected chair of that new committee. We should all be appreciative that he's agreed to take that on, and I certainly appreciate it. So thank you very much, and congratulations, John. So I'll turn things over to you just to provide some background on the 3 reports that are listed, and also the vacancy management report, if you can make any comments you want to make about that. So go ahead, John.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Phil. I appreciate that. We talked as a committee about the vacancy reporting, and that it's cumbersome, it seems, to report on it monthly when the progress can't really be seen for a few months' time. So what we moved to do as a committee and voted unanimously and agreed on was to move the reporting on the vacancy report to quarterly. So it won't be done at each board meeting, but there will be updates provided. And when we dove deeper into the stats and what's happening and what's going on, there's a lot of movement in the right direction, and a lot of strategies in place by Christine and others at the organization to make sure that we're seeing improvement there. And I think that's why it's, reflected, like Paul had mentioned, we're under the 3% target. But beyond that, I just want people to know that it's something being taken very seriously, and looking at all avenues and ways we can improve and continue to be more efficient. And the progress will be more evident when it's reported on quarterly rather than each month. So it won't look so incremental, because you'll actually notice the changes that are happening. That's probably the biggest standout from that report. Can't think of anything in particular other than that, honestly, to report on. Outside of, the staff, the employees at the organization continue to do incredible work in engaging with community members and getting their perspectives on what's needed and what the unique needs are of each location and how we can address that. We talked briefly about security on site and looking at a way, we can just measure progress and making sure that we're keeping people safe, and also not disturbing people's privacy and right to that privacy as well. So we discussed that as well. And there are things in motion that will address some of those concerns and give more clarity as time goes on. So that's all I've got. If anybody's got any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Would you move, John, move the 4 reports, the staff report on vacancy management and the other 3 reports under that?
Yes.
Thank you.
Through you, Chair, I'd like to move those reports. Thank you.
And somebody want to second that, Kara? All right, so the vacancy management report that was previously under consent, and the 3 reports under People Service and Housing Committee are now under consideration. So if I could just make a comment, the gentleman whose name escapes me, who's in charge of security, was at that meeting. And I was actually quite impressed by his knowledge, and the work he's doing. I really do look forward to hearing more from him about that particular area and the committee's work on it. That was the one thing that I thought was very interesting. And he answered quite a few questions that the committee had about how you make sure that security is effective in buildings. And certainly something that he's very aware of. The other thing is that Gary, I think, volunteered, I'll remind him of it, to introduce our head of security to someone at the police department who sort of might be relevant for his work, which I think would be a really good link if we could do that. I don't know if it's been done yet, but I'm sure it will happen. So those are my only comments. Anything else on that before we vote on it? All right, all in favor of those reports? That matter is passed. The next is the Finance Audit and Risk Committee reports. I served as chair of that committee at the last meeting. We had a discussion about of the election of a new chair. On that committee are 3 elected members and me. So the elected members have enough to do with all the other things. Maybe not the deputy mayor of London, but the other 2 are very busy. And I didn't want to put more on their plate. Well, Sean's here. I'm sorry. I missed that. He slipped in here. So what I think what we agreed on, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that we have a new member joining the committee, or hopefully joining the board soon. And maybe myself and the vice chair, between the 2 of us, we could alternate chairing that committee, maybe till he gets up to speed and if he has an interest in chairing that committee, it might be a natural fit. So that's what we intend on doing for the interim period. It sounded like a reasonable solution. So to go to the 2 reports, the draft unaudited financials, we went over those. I think the 2 things, and I'll ask for staff if they have anything to add. In the revenue area, we're up quite a bit due to a lower budgeted debt forgiveness, which seemed to be a little bit unusual, but it's something that I don't think we're going to see every year, but Paul can expand on that. And the major difficulty, or the major increase in our expenses, was building maintenance. Not surprising. That covers all the different areas that we have to do in buildings in terms of the maintenance of the building. So those 2 were the big numbers, and we ended up with an operating deficit of $33,000. So that was that. The other thing is we're also joined by the manager of finance. It's Bushra Walshy, who was kind enough to attend at the meeting, and hopefully she'll be reporting to us in the future on some of the financial statements. So with that, I'm prepared to move the 2 reports, and if someone will second it, then we can have any question. Hadley's going to second it, and so I'll just open it up for any questions or comments on those reports. Paul, did I sort of get that right on the bad debt? Close.
Yes, you started it off great. So in terms of bad debt, it's really about revenue certainty. And over the last, actually since COVID, we've been sort of working through how confident we can be in our revenue projections. And it has to do with 2 things: the annual review process and the delays for tenants in filling that out, and the landlord tenant board process, where we're seeing those delays increasing our arrears. So in 2022 fiscal year, we took a provision actually on revenue because we thought we were over-reporting our revenue. And that was in around $500,000. That was based on the annual review assessment. We didn't think that was that we were reporting accurately, and that it would, over time, if we didn't take a provision in 2022, we'd take a loss in 2023. And that actually is fundamentally what happened. So our rent forgiveness went from, as reported in the report, just under $900,000 in 2022. That's the amount of rent we forgave tenants for delays in their annual reviews. It went from just under 900,000 to just over 1.4 million. So just over $500,000. So we're just doing the analysis, and we'll do that with the auditor. We think we sort of might have stabilized that delay, and through that process, I guess that was sort of one of the big challenges for us coming through year end and getting to the draft unaudited statements, was just how do we manage that loss. So we do believe we're in the right ballpark. We'll work with the auditor, and they will tell us based on our conversations last year if we've made the right decisions based on our revenue certainty, but we're fairly confident the process we used internally was sufficient. So that was, I guess if we had not taken the provision in 2022 of $500,000, we would certainly be in a $500,000 deficit position at this point. based on how the revenue projections worked and those rent forgiveness numbers. So we're just going to work with the auditor to make sure we dot the I's and cross the T's on that. And you'll see the final results as part of the financial statements.
Thank you. Any questions, comments on those reports? They've been moved and seconded? No? All those in favor? Thank you very much. So we'll go to reports and business, and all of these reports are actually for approval. So the first will be the staff report 2024-07 update of workplace violence, harassment, and sexual harassment policy. Dirk is not here, and I know there was some, am I wrong about this? There was some discussion about this. Did it go to a committee or not?
Yes. Yes, and through the chair, I'm happy to present the
ahead.
report. So what you have before you is the updated workplace violence, harassment, and sexual harassment policy. We review this policy annually. And through that process, we engage with our Joint Health and Safety Committee and do environmental scans on legislative changes and changes in best practice. So there's usually minor updates to this each year. What you'll see in this year's update is just changing language around domestic violence and how we're speaking to that in the policy. At the People Service and Housing Committee, we discussed the policy and we also discussed the forms. So what we're asking you to approve is the policy, and we recognize that we need to do a further review of the forms just on some language. So we're approving the policy and the forms are provided for your information. So this has been reviewed by the Joint Health and Safety Committee, is recommended by management, has been reviewed by the People Service and Housing Committee, and now we're looking for board approval. And once that happens, we will communicate this out to all staff.
All right, mover and seconder for approval, moved by Kara, seconded by John. All right, any questions or comments? All those in favor? That matter is passed. The next report is the staff report for spending approval for prior year capital budgets. That's Trevor's matter. You reported on that at committee. I don't know if you've got anything you wish to add.
Through the chair, nothing to add necessarily, just to reiterate the fact that we're looking for approval to spend on the 22 and 23 capital budgets because we changed the procurement policy in the spring of 2023, and we didn't make any requests to look retroactively at those capital budgets to have the new procurement policy applied.
Great. Someone prepared to move and second that, moved by Kara, seconded by Mayor Grantham. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? Thank you. The next is the staff report on the Albert Street elevator modernization. I'll be eager to see if anybody votes against an elevator modernization, but it's always possible. So, Trevor, anything to add other than the obvious?
No, just to say, speaking through the chair, just to say that the reason this report is before you is because we didn't want to assume the approval of the previous report. So the dollar figure here is within the allocation that was set aside in 23 capital budget.
All right. Somebody prepared to move and seconded, moved by the deputy mayor, seconded by Gary, who have been missing all meeting. Any questions or comments? Got to get you in the agenda there. No? All those in favor then? Next is the staff report on the self-insurance reserve fund. Paul, anything you want to expand on that other than what was in the agenda?
No, I through the chair, I think I'm happy to take questions, but just I have a fire alarm going off in my ear, so I will take questions and not let you listen to that. So,
All right, perfect.
sorry. So if there is questions, I can take.
Okay, move in second. I need to move in second. The deputy mayor and Gary again. Any questions, comments on that? All those in favor then? Matter is passed. And the last staff report is multi-year budget update. Paul, anything you wish to add on that?
Yeah, we'll spend just a moment and just sort of share that we have been very fortunate through the multi-year budget to receive the increases we requested on our operating budget. We've received our capital funding to support Reimagine Phase 2 and some regeneration planning, and we received just under $5 million of the ask for our service improvement plan. So what we're asking for is approval of the multi-year operating and capital budget and the business case 21 to receive that funding, and then we'll need to come back to provide a little more information on business case number 22, the service improvement plan, to share the implementation plan with the board. We've done some rough estimates through this process with the city, but we want to make sure that we've actually adjusted the funding appropriately through the process. It was a little bit of a high level exercise, and we want to make sure that we develop a plan that meets the funding and our service objectives. So you'll hear more from us at the next Finance and Audit and Risk Committee on this.
Mover and seconder, please. Moved by the deputy mayor, moved seconded by Kara. Any questions or comments? Mayor Grantham.
Yeah, just put it on my county hat. I don't want to assume, but the regeneration community housing funds, that's for across the entire portfolio, correct? That's entire, that includes any possible county projects. That's not just earmarked for just City of London projects.
Sorry, we do have an active fire where I'm at, so that all came through Mayor Grantham. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to ask you to repeat that in about 10 seconds when they stop telling me to evacuate.
Why don't you let us know when you're ready to go?
Okay, and just more of a comment then, Chair,
I don't know if he's done yet or not.
yeah.
Are you done hearing the alarm or not?
Yeah, I know you're talking, but I can't hear you. I'm actually free. If you, I'm good now. I do not have to evacuate. I am safe, but some people do. So,
Don't evacuate.
No, just a question. The money that was allocated in our business case 21 for regeneration, I'm going to assume that those dollars are available across the entire portfolio, including the county. It's just not dollars that are earmarked for city, correct?
correct. The service improvement plan is an investment in the portfolio into our operating model. So the increases, in the work we do with custodians and the work we do in other areas will have an impact across the full portfolio.
I'm still trying to figure this all out. Then just finally a comment, and I had this up from before to find it. When I saw the word unusual activity regarding rent and rent arrears, just a suggestion that we become usual activity over a course of time, but just the word unusual in there with rent arrears just kind of struck me. It's there for a reason.
Yeah, so when we looked at the trending, it is not usual. So year over year, there's no trending in patterns past 2018 on rent collection, rent arrears, etc. So we're trying to find that trend. We don't see it yet.
Okay. Thanks.
Any other questions or comments? No, I think it's been moved and seconded. Am I right about that? Yeah. All in favor? That is the last report. New business, which is number 12. Just wanted to remind everyone that I'm currently going to council on Tuesday, just to speak to the issue of our nomination for the board of directors, Gregory Thompson, just to be able to provide to council before they make that decision. Our reasoning, first of all, our process that we went through a very thorough process, including inviting resumes, doing interviews, and a fair amount of consideration. And then the criteria that we were looking at in making our recommendation. So I think that's probably important to do at that meeting. And somebody told me that I'm pretty near the top of the agenda, so I'm kind of enthused about that.
Not only that, but you'll be joining us from the floor of council chambers, not the gallery.
I won't be behind the glass where I used to yell at kids hockey. Thank you very much. With that being completed, my intention is to just adjourn the meeting and then ask the board to remain for a discussion. So I'll just look for a mover and seconder Moved by Kara, seconded by Gary, all in favor to adjourn? All right, we're not gonna have a meeting, we're just gonna have a general discussion, so I'm gonna ask everyone to leave other than the board, and, Melissa, I'll come and get you when we're done. We're not trusting not to have a party in here.
All right, thank you. I'm
Thanks,
gonna
Paul.